guys, that's your Racial Legends. Welcome to the video. Glad to have you all here with me today. Sending some love, some positive vibes your way, especially if you need them out there today. Today's gonna be a good video, guys. A good video for Plarium because I'm doing their job for them yet again. Plarium, take notes because I know you can do better. 2 buffs a month? 2? You can only do 2. I'm thinking that Charlie in the Chocolate Factory scene where he's like, 2? With the chocolate bars? No. Okay. Anyway, guys, I'm going to do it for them. I'm going to take 15 of the most deserving champions that absolutely need a buff in the game. Not only am I going to list them, but I'm going to tell them exactly how to buff these champions. Are you guys ready? Let's do this. I do want to give credit, though. I just kind of complained about 2 champions a month. Like, what the heck? There's a lot more deserving. But they have hit more than they've missed, in my opinion, on their buffs. Just most recently, they gave Operate and Clanfather a good buff. They gave Gamaran a very good buff. So I think that largely, I haven't agreed with all of their buffs, but I think that largely, they've done a pretty damn good job of the champions that they have touched. They just haven't touched enough. Let's start with the one that I always pick on. Is Chronicler Adelyn, man. I don't like Chronicler. You guys already know this. I know some of you guys do. I'm not one of them, and you have not compelled me to come to your camp on Chronicler. So what do I like about her? She's okay for Sand Devil. It's interesting that this skill ignores block debuffs, but man, I know she's a freebie, and lately the freebies have been nothing to write home about in the game.
That's the plan.
Maybe with the exception of Loki this year, but Chronicler, you feel very epic-like to me. I mean, what does she do on her A2? She has a heal and a destroy HP, or restores destroyed HP, excuse me. So what I want to do with Chronicler Adelyn is nice and easy. I don't want to make her broken. Not every champion in the game needs to be the best champion in the game. I simply want to spruce up this A2 a little bit, right? Restores 25%, destroy max HP, heals all allies, 25% of this champion's max HP. That's weak, man. It feels very epic. Maybe even a rare ability. I don't know. I want to add some turn meter fill. Fill the turn meter of all allies by 30%. Hell, you could even grant an extra turn after that. And then you'd be like, okay, an all right legendary. Right now, though, not even close. So yeah, I would like to fill the turn meter of all allies by, let's just say 20%, and then grant an extra turn. She's still not going to be broken or anything close to it. It just gives her a bit more power, a little bit more viability. What do you guys think of that one? All right, I want to pick on an old school champion now, and it's going to be Robar, aka War Maiden, with a little bit extra damage. We need to get Robar up and updated with the times. I want to say he used to be super slow, and they gave him a speed boost, but he needs a little bit more than that, right? Now, look at this. He's got a 4-turn cooldown AoE, and an AoE decreased defense on his A2. And that's it. He has no passive. He has a chance of a stun on the A1. Man, there's epics who can deal more damage than Robar out there, you know, and it's a shame because he used to be a powerhouse nuker. I remember talking about him back in the day, this merciless assault. Forget about it. You're going to absolutely decimate everything in front of you. That's no longer the case with him. He's just been power crept by other damage dealers out there. He's not the worst for just raw damage, decreased defense, but again, I mean, to me, he's a glorified War Maiden. I want to make a very simple change here. I want to take this wild swing and I want to give him the Dracomorph treatment. What does that mean? I want to give him the decreased defense and the weaken on the same ability. There's still only about 5 champions in the game that have that. It'd be nice alongside Dracomorph to have another non-void legendary option. So let's just add the big version of weaken, and then it becomes a very dependable and reliable decreased defense and weaken champion, all in one skill, one ability, and it makes him, you know, a lot more viable and certainly not broken or anything like that. So that's going to be Robar. All right, next up, guys, let's just go to the worst legendary in the game, in my opinion. Certainly in the conversation. I'm not going to make it super heavy on the Doom Tower champions, but I have to talk about Cromax Moonblood. Cromax freaking Moonblood, just one of the most awful champions out there. A 4-turn cooldown provoke. A 4-turn cooldown provoke. Sure, there's some areas I've used Cromax Moonblood in Centranos and Curse City, you know, where I have nothing else to use. you know? But when there's rare provokers, I'm looking at you, Gnarlhorn, who have an AoE 3-turn provoke.
Don't you look at me like that.
It's like, okay, let's give him a little bit of a, let's just make this a 4-turn cooldown, book down to 3, please. I mean, that's fairly easy. But I also want to go to this A2, and I want to fill this champion's turn meter by 50%, not 30%. That way, you bring this down to a 3-turn cooldown, you fill his own turn meter by a 50% on the A2. He can get back to the provoke a little bit faster. Makes him a really reliable lockdown tanky unit, kind of like, I don't know, a Skaramis, aka an epic champion. Like, that puts him on the same level as an epic. It's the least that we can ask from Cromax. I don't know what they were thinking on that dude. All right, I want to go to a kind of a not super new, not super old, but it's Alil. So Alil, I actually did an updated guide on, or I did my first guide on him on my Raid Shadow Legends Champion Guides YouTube channel a couple days ago. And I just love this guy's kit so much, man. I love it. I love that he steals. I love his passive. I love his A2 that ignores Stone Skin. They added that on his last buff. I love the A3. It's super cool, removing and nothing can be resisted, excuse me, in his entire kit. We don't need accuracy. I love it. But he deals no damage, man. No damage. So what I want to do is simple. I'm going to give 2 options to you, Plarium designer watching this video. I want to either up the multiplier a little bit on the A2, right? Because what good is ignoring all this stuff if you can't kill anybody, right? Or I want to add a block revive to this A2. We don't even need to buff the damage, because if you can kill somebody with this A2, you ought to be rewarded with a block revive, right? So that would be my 2 recommendations. And block revive is very powerful, especially with ignore Stone Skin, but he is a void legendary. So I think the buff ought to make him like special, a threat that has to be dealt with, right? So kind of like, I don't know, Mezamel has that ability. Granted, she's a mythical, but she also has AoEs and crazy other stuff that he obviously doesn't have, right? On her based on her alternate form. Okay, so that's Alil. How about Raf-Matab? I know some of you guys like this dude, but you deserve better. You deserve better on Raf-Matab. I'm going to be easy on Rorik and not include him on the list today, but he could use a buff too. Where is good old Rafi?
How you doing?
There he is. Looks pretty cool, Raf-Matab. But the thing about him is he's a provoker, 3-turn provoke. Okay, interesting. You got my attention. But what else is he doing? An increased resistance and a reflect damage on a 4-turn cooldown. Oof. Probably 2 of the less appealing buffs out there in the game. Listen, this is not rocket science to fix. There's ways that we could rework his entire kit and add better buffs, more essential buffs to that A3. But I think just simply bringing it down to a 3-turn cooldown is the least that we can ask. I would actually recommend maybe an increased resistance, reflect damage, or maybe just a shield based on his HP or something like that, or I don't know. Adding a shield to his kit would be nice. Maybe even on the A2, it's an attack that deals the provoke, so maybe a shield based on the damage dealt. A little bit more survivability and support to the team around him would be nice from Raf-Matab. How about one that we've been picking on for a while now? I'm shocked that they have not buffed her yet, and it's Narma the frickin' Returned. Narma looks cool, but Narma, you're really bad. Give me Dark Hail every day, all day. A farmable epic champion over Narma. They're really not even comparable. He has instant activation. She does not. Listen, Narma the Returned, she's a poisoner. She's like, she just doesn't fit with today's raid very well. But let's make her, usable in the end game on poison combust teams, and let's give her more utility in the early and the mid game, just as a damage dealer. So let's take this toxic trance ability. Ideally, we move it down to a 3-turn cooldown, and we would add 4 poisons. 4 poisons, 3-turn cooldown. That really just, in AoE, it sounds like a ton, but I mean, Tomb Lord has that. Like Calvalax has that on his freaking passive. There's champions that have a lot better than what she's bringing here. I think that, if she's going to be a modern day poisoner, let's make her a modern day freaking poisoner, right? So that's what I would do. I would make this an AoE, even if they keep it on a 4-turn cooldown unbooked. That's how I would fix Narma the Returned. Let's talk about a super old school champion, guys. It's going to be MK Mountain King, baby. Oh, Mountain King. So cool. Such a cool champion. The most HP in the game. Still to this day, no one will surpass Mountain King's hit points at 31k. Problem with Mountain King, though, is he's like the most simple legendary known to man. Attack one enemy. Boom. Damage skills on at HP and attack. Man, he feels so old school when you look at his kit. Attack one enemy again. Ignore 50% defense on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. Another 4-turn cooldown when booked. Attack one enemy. This is a game that has really changed since the olden days when Mountain King was, well, king. Multi-hitters are all the rage, and he has 3 single target hits in his kit. He's tough to use, I think. I know there's a lot of you guys, again, that like this dude, but again, if you like him, you deserve better, I think.
Do you understand that that was hurtful?
So I would change the Enchanted Axe to a 4-turn book down to 3. Leave it the same otherwise. On the A3, I would change this into a, you could keep it a 4-turn, but I would change this into a double at least, or maybe even a triple hitter. I would make the Thunder Cleave a 2-time hitter on his A1. That's what I would change about Mountain King. Add those extra hits. Let's go to the piggy. Oink, oink, baby. It's Norog. Norog. Here we go. Man, the pig. I used to like this pig back in the day. I really did, especially when Hydra was first introduced to the game. I was like, hey, a lot of people were really looking for those block buffs champions. There wasn't nearly as many as there is right now in the game, and Ice Pillar serves some utility. He's a defense-based champion with really crappy base stats for a legendary. His speed is all right, but look at that defense. Look at that HP. Man, that's weak. He has oddly like a decent amount of attack, which gives you absolutely no utility at all in the game. He has a good passive, a decent passive, but man, Norog needs a big improvement. Where do they want this guy to be? Do they want him to be a big tank like he looks like? Or do they want him to be a Hydra champion because of the block buffs on a 3-turn cooldown? I don't know what they want him to be, but here's what I want him to be. I want to add an AoE hex on the A1, damn it. It's a little bit outside. Or you know what? Just add a block buffs and a hex on the A2, right? Let's add that hex to his kit. Let's give him more viability, more utility in Hydra Clan Boss, man. He needs to be adding a lot more than that. This guy's kit is just so basic. On the passive, I want to make him immune to True Fear. Again, I'm going to lean into the only area that I think he's good outside Faction Wars, and that is, he does have that defense in dungeons, which isn't bad, but I want to make him good in Hydra at least, right? Like really solid. So immune to True Fear, don't have to worry about the Head of Torment, the block buffs, and you could maybe even add a Provoke instead of the Hex. So that's what I would do to Norog. Again, to recap, maybe a Provoke, small chance on the A1, a Hex on the A2, immune to True Fear on the passive. That's Norog. All right, this guy tweeted me yesterday, I think. Hey, CWA, is Tatsu bad? I have 3 dupes by the vault, not so much to showcase out there. I'm sorry I can't shut you out because I cannot read your Alki Britain.
You can go to school.
Maybe. Is Tatsu? Yes, Tatsu's bad, and she's next on the list. So Tatsu's good. You actually get a little excited when you pull her if you don't have Lady Mikage, because she's part of the Lady Mikage fusion. However, she's bad. I think she's really bad, frankly, and I think she deserves a buff because a lot of players out there aren't going to have Kreela, you know, to fuse Mikage, or maybe some people out there fuse Mikage and then they pull a Tatsu. That's what happened to me. So either way, Tatsu, she deserves better, right? She's a Shadowkin Force Affinity champion, and she's just super underwhelming. She's a 2-time hitter on their A1. She has an AoE decreased resistance and a sleep on her A2, and she has a 2-time hitter. Before attacking, removes debuffs from this champion and steals buffs from the enemy, which is cool. She has an increased attack and increased crit damage if you kill an enemy. I want to make the A3 deny revive. That's what I want to do. I want to give her a deny revival on this A3. I feel like deny revival, there's so many revivers in this game right now. There's so many like reviving passives out there after Marichka, and there's a lot more. Heck, even Gamerin has one. Odin is another one. I feel like revivers, Sun Wukong is another one. Reviving is just almost everywhere. The other day I faced a team in the arena that had 4 revivers but 3 of the champions were like not support revivers. They were like Sun Wukongs and Odin's type damage dealers, right? And so I want to add a little bit more block revive. I don't want to go overboard, but I've made the recommendation, I think, for 2 champions now. I want to add, you know, more options out there if you don't want to go against endless revive teams. So I think that adding that to Tatsu's kit would give her more viability, make her a threat that needs to be responded to, especially in the arena. It would give her utility in other areas like Ice Golem as well, anywhere there's, you know, minions to a boss. Other than that, obviously they could up the damage multipliers a little bit as well. Real quick check here. Her AoE damage multiplier is a 3.9. That's nothing too exciting. Her base attack isn't sky high. And then a 2.9, I'm sorry, a 3.9 on the AoE, a 2.9 on the 2-time hitter on the A3. Maybe a little bit more damage would certainly go a long way with her as well. Let's go to probably one of the most obvious ones out there, Skeletor. I've made like 2 or 3 videos on Skeletor now, 2 of them basically sharing my dismay and how bad he is. You know, I know some of you guys, I see the comments, are using him in some areas, faction wars and stuff like that, but he's really an early game champion, and that's about it. And the books really suck on this dude. There's just a lot to be disappointed on one of the coolest villains of all time being added to the game. They did him so freaking dirty. What is this? Copyright to Mattel. Mattel, if you're watching, they did you dirty. They did you dirty on Skeletor. Demand Ray does better to your IP. So probably gonna get in trouble for saying that. But anyway, Skeletor, how do we do this? Well, I'm gonna go overboard. I'm gonna go aggressive here because he deserves it, because he's freaking Skeletor, man. I'll get you next time, He-Man.
I don't think I feel well.
Not bad, right? I'm working on it. Increase accuracy. Okay, let's steal all buffs, but decrease turn meter by 15%. How about this? Steal everybody's turn meter, right? Steal turn meter. How about 25%? I mean, that's not even that crazy. There's a billion champions that do that, right? And there's a lot of champions out there. Like Vlad has a decent one, right? There's even EPICS that steal way more turn meter. Let's steal it, please. Let's not borrow it. I mean, all right, where am I going? What am I doing? Well, I'm looking for Vlad. I'm looking in, okay. Vlad, what is his? He's got a 100% chance of stealing 50% turn meter from champions under these, or decreasing turn meter by 50% on targets not under those. Man, I mean, okay, there's even better out there, but still, that's way better than freaking Skeletor, man. Let's steal 25% turn meter from every target, right? Let's do that on the A3. Or let's make it like 75% turn meter depletion. Like, that needs to be a lot better. Steal every buff, steal turn meter. He's Skeletor, man. He's a thief. He's always doing something he's not supposed to. Let's steal it. That's what I want to do on Skeletor. What about you guys? You all have Skeletor. What do you think about him? How would you buff him? I think that A3 is just like low-hanging fruit. Easy buffs right there. All right, it's time. We can't do a buff video without talking about good old Elegaius. I go the Elegaius, kind of like the Roman motif, you know? I don't know if it's Elegaius. Anyway, I digress. Good base stats on Elegaius, that's about it, right? He has this lockout ability on his A2. On his A3, here's what I want to do. It's an AoE, a chance of removing 2 random buffs on a 4-turn cooldown, decrease turn meter by 20%. I want to make the A2 puts all skills on cooldown, plays a block buffs on them. I actually want to steal a little debuff from Skeletor. I want to change this to a petrification. Actually, you know what? Do we even need the petrification if we're already putting their skills on cooldown? I mean, like, it would be nice, but how about put all the skills on cooldown? This debuff or this effect cannot be resisted. How about that? On the A3, let's simply take this from a 5-turn to a 4-turn book down to 3. It's still not going to make him that insane, that good, really, you know? He could also remove 2 how about instead of removing 2 random buffs, how about we decrease the duration of all buffs on all enemies by 2 turns? That way he's polymorph proof as well. Because his A2, we can almost get rid of the block buffs or something, and just put the skills on cooldown, can't be resisted. That's how I would buff Elegaius, but you could argue that should probably even go even further on those buffs. All right, let's go to the big blue teal weirdo looking champion. It's Bystophus. Bystophus' claim to fame is one of the highest attacks in the game, 1795 before Carnage, and I think one or two others came around. But good old Bystophus, man. This guy, jeez. Talk about not fitting the bill of sales, right? Like at 1795, I remember when I first pulled him way back in the day, I thought this guy's going to be a nuking hard carry, going to be destroying absolutely everything in his wake. And that was not the case. He doesn't deal that much damage at all. He has a 4-turn book down to 3, inflicts critical hits against targets under block. Whatever, dude. Crumble. It's nice and easy here. Let's take this crumble on the A3 and let's change it to a 3-turn cooldown. Nice and simple on Bystophus. Would I like some more damage too? Absolutely, I would love some more damage. But really, block active skills is definitely useful. Decreased defense is definitely useful. I would love it on a 3-turn cooldown, just like a champion like Vlad, the same dude who has that same ability on a 3-turn cooldown. I almost feel like he deserves a little bit more too, right? Like, if we're going to use this and turn it into a block active skills, decreased defense, great for wave content. Great for the arena against mythicals. I don't know, you can keep it on a 4-turn cooldown, but the block active skills ignores block debuffs. It's a little bit more of like a mythical type ability to ignore block debuffs, but at least that would give him a lot of utility and a great kind of like a bench option. Put me in, coach, to deal with mythical champions for those out there who have to deal with mythical champions, especially with a lot more live arena. The easiest fix on him, though, honestly, would just be simply to increase his multipliers, like give him a little bit more bang on his attacks. All right, guys, last but certainly not least is actually going to be, and this probably, now that I like look around, there's a lot of champions I could have probably included, but I'm going to give it to the Incarnate. It really annoys me how mediocre she is, especially as Arbiter's like companion champion. Listen, I mean, she's removing shield buffs and placing a shield buff. Cool. Ally protection. She has a strengthen, which is nice. But what I want to do is I really want to put a little more oomph between that bond skill of her and Arbiter. So what I want to do on the Incarnate is add to her passive. I want to have like an active effect on the passive, not on a 4-turn cooldown. And I want to go at the end of all these champions, all the Incarnate's turns, right? At the end of her turn, she has a 40% chance. You can name your percentage. It might have to be 50. It might be 80. It might be 18. Chance of granting an instant turn to any arbiters on the team, you know? I think that that would really amplify the utility of running them both together and actually feeling like you're not wasting a spot on the team on the Incarnate, you know? You could also make these buffs protected, you know? You could also add like another essential buff to her kit. There's a lot of ways that you could fix her, but she's definitely a solid progression champion with an A3 like this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but I want to get a little bit more out of like Arbiter's companion champion. I was so excited when they announced it, and I was so let down with the kit. So unless you're early game, kind of maybe early mid game, I don't think you can really justify taking up a slot on your team with the Incarnate, right? Her A3 is great, but the rest of her kit really lets you down. I want more out of Arbiter. Let's get more out of Arbiter with the Incarnate. Let me know what you think of this list, guys, in my buff ideas. Plarium, take notes. We can wish that we'll get maybe more than 2 buffs a month next year. But either way, if there was a champion that I forgot to put on the list, let me know about it in the comments below. Thank you for watching. And as always, take care, guys.